Okay, I wanted to show a quick video that basically goes over how to take a core issue and move it to the relevant algorithms repo. So basically, whenever you uh, sort of like make an algorithm do a bunch of work, it's going to the JSON is going to be accessible to sort of move over to the relevant repo for that algorithm. So here I have a problem with this test. We're currently looking at what is the correct result for a test. But if I run this test file um, and it updates, we'll see it kind of routes this trace that it shouldn't route. So there is a problem with our schematic trace phase. So you do have to know approximately where the problem is, where the algorithm is called. In this case, it's called inside the group do initial schematic trace render. That's where these trace renders happen. And you can see that debug line at the top. So what I've done in my environment is just done export debug and put that line in there. And so that's kind of the universal way to make that debug work. And then you can see when debug is enabled, we add debug outputs. And that's what is written when you run this. So I can now open up this file. So a lot of algorithms have a way to directly paste in this algorithm and kind of open it in the debugger. But if you don't have it, and in this case, I don't think we have it, you have to create a repo in the algorithm repo itself, which is a very standard process. So I'm going to open up the algorithm repo, in this case, the schematic trace solver, and I am going to create a new reproduction. So if I go into the site directory, so wherever the page files are, that's usually where you want to start. We can see there's a bunch of examples. So I could add a new example. That would be fine. Sometimes there's a repros and there's numbered repros. You don't have to put a lot of effort into naming. Sometimes you can do like the number and then dash and then some description, but it's not really a big deal. And then we are going to paste in our problem. So we just say input problem equals this, and we can look at some of the other pages to see how this is done. So like we can see they're sort of importing the input problem type and then the pipeline debugger. That's always going to be there in every algorithm repo. You're going to have a sort of a debugger for the main solver, and then you're just going to pass in your input to that debugger. Okay, so very simple. Let's run this. And I just realized I'm not on main. Hopefully that's not an issue. Great. So now we're going to run it, run Cosmos. It's going to open up and we have our new example. So now we can see our, in a proper debugger, what's going on. And this is really the best way to debug problems. It's not inside of core with a bunch of console logs. It's through this process. And we can try to see where the problem happened, why it thinks this trace is acceptable. And we can see it's trying all the trace variants, and it actually accepted that variant. So that seems to be problematic. But I can go through and step through the algorithm and get a really good test case. So do you see these breadcrumbs at the top? These breadcrumbs are extremely powerful because if you click them, they will download the specific input for that solver. So I noticed when I was going through the iterations that there was a problem. And most algorithms are composed of many nested algorithms, many nested solvers, which each have their own visualizers and other stuff for debugging. So if I go to the phase where I think I saw the problem, where it was accepted, I can see there's a schematic trace single line solver. So that's presumably the single line. And then we can see there's the schematic traces solver. In this case, it looks like this one is erroneously being accepted. So I can click this, and I've now downloaded the input for that specific solver. And now I go through the same process inside of this repo. I can now create a new page that uses a debugger to debug that specific problem. And now I've really, really isolated this problem down to the smallest level. So let's create a new example. I forget what the name of that JSON file is usually pretty good. So schematic trace single line solver. So we don't have a page for that yet. So let me go ahead and create a new directory, schematic trace single line solver, I believe. And then we can insert our JSON.